Klockan är precis efter 20 över, så att ni har varit ganska duktiga med tiden, vilket är bra. Då får nästa talare lite mer tid. Vi har en presentation till här nu på engelska, och jag kommer alldeles strax presentera nästa talare. Efter det så är det lunch, och det är en ganska tidig lunch för att få ihop programmet. Så att lunchen kommer att vara 11:10 ungefär kommer lunchen vara då. Och då pågår den fram till klockan 12. Jag vill också passa på att påminna om Mentimeter här, alltså att skicka in frågor. Jag tittade igenom, kollade lite innan och det hade inte kommit någon fråga då. Så att skicka gärna in någon fråga under dagen så att säga. Det kan ju vara någonting som ni tänkte på som Richard sa, och det kan vara någonting annat som kommer upp under dagen som har med temat att göra. Och jag vill också påminna lite grann om huvudtemat för dagen. Alltså hur kan framtidens skola och undervisning se ut? Vad behöver hända? Vad skulle behöva förändras? Och så vidare då. So, our second speaker of today lives in Stockholm. She comes from Belgium and works as chief game changer at Gamification Nation with the goal of making business and learning more engaging. She's an award-winning author, development coach, and speaker, and she's also involved with international gamification events. Her blog has been at the top of different UK blog listings, and she is here. She is Ann Coppens.
Thank you. Now, my Swedish is still improving. So, morgon, jag pratar svenska lite. If this was the presentation, it would be over now. So I'm counting on your English skills to be a little bit better. Now, before I start, I want to ask you and write down for yourself the number that you think out of 10 you deserve about your knowledge of gamification right now. So what is between 0 and 10, what's the number you think about the knowledge you have in gamification? You have a number? Good. Keep it private. We'll check in later if it has improved. Okay. Now, the other thing I want to know is who plays Pokemon Go? Yes! I have a few very enthusiastic and a few more reluctant. And maybe some who has never heard of Pokemon Go? One honest person. Excellent. Right, we'll educate you. Okay. And if not, the children you teach will be able to teach you, for sure. Who plays Candy Crush or any of those other lovely mobile games? Great. Any sports people in here? Played hockey maybe, or even individual sports? Yeah, there's a few. Excellent. Who loves puzzles? Crosswords, Sudoku? I have some people who are sort of attracted to all of them. That's good. I started as a kid designing crosswords. I loved crosswords. I loved puzzles. My dad said there's no money in puzzles or games. Get a real job. So I went and studied. Now, I was a good student. I actually loved school. My dad was a teacher, so if something didn't work in school, he worked at the sister school to mine. He heard about it first. Not so good. So I always had other motivation to do well. Now, I learned in a gamified way from when I was little. It's how I worked. It's how my brain worked. So when I came across gamification as a word, and it's still not accepted by the dictionary in case you're trying, it's nothing to do with Swedish spell check. It doesn't work in English either. Just make sure if you do a presentation about it that it doesn't say gasification, because you definitely don't want to do that. Okay, but what I want to do today is inspire you a little bit with what's possible, maybe challenge your thinking a little bit, what's possible, and if your number was low in gamification, to maybe nudge it up a little so you know a little bit more. But I also want to share with you some of the things that really work and why I got excited when I saw, there's a whole industry that thinks like me. Sounds okay? Good. There's one or two of you nodding. This is interactive. I bounce back and forward, so feel free to nod occasionally. Now, be thankful I don't make you dance, because that does happen too. If I don't get interaction, I do put on music and I make people dance. Just so you know. Okay. Now, my theory, and this is Ann Coppens and gamification's theory, is that there are 3 levels of gamification. Now, this is a pretty poor slide, but it's to illustrate most vendors on the market right now about gamification tell you there's this level 2 systems. You have things like points, badges, leaderboards. And quite frankly, that is only one element of it. And you don't even need a system to do it. Because you, teachers, have been doing this for years in classrooms with stars, with fun pictures, with awards that you got people to draw up. This is nothing quite that new. Where it is more, I suppose, more new, and where you're really drawing from games, is at level 1, where the content itself is gamified and laid out in the first person as a quest, as a challenge. Now, Richard spoke about obstacles. This is the funny thing. If you look at the word games, it is voluntarily overcoming obstacles. I mean, who wants to do that? Right? Voluntarily overcoming obstacles. Kids are doing this all of the time. In fact, research in the US says that most children spend more than 10,000 hours playing games by the end of their school curriculum, which is more time than they spend with you in the classroom. Interesting statistic. So they're used to this. They're used to saying, I'm in charge, I go my way, I work my way through a game, I find a solution. And then we come to school, and there's someone telling me what to do. And I have already trained my mindset that I can do these things on my own. So there's a little bit of a disconnect starting to happen. Level 3 gamification, I see happening not so frequently also. I work a lot in the corporate sector. When I speak about gamification, most of them believe it's only level 2. You as educators already know level 1 actually quite works. And some of you do it on a regular basis. Level 3 is where they show you, actually, they teach you what they've learned. They prove, actually, I mastered this skill. And I know as a coach and a teacher myself, I used to train little kids in basketball. I was a basketball player, believe it or not, my size. But at 13, I was tall. I'm still that tall. Okay, so I moved from the back all the way to the front in basketball. But what I was good at was at strategy and at tactics. So I had a game in mind. It just worked for me. So I trained these little kids. Now I say little. By irony, all of my basketball team were about the size of a table height. They were 6 years old, and they called me Anne and the Hoovers. We created dust. It was like, phew. We were fast and furious. Not always that skilled, but very passionate. And I think they got that from me. But my goal for each kid was different. I had little Tom. Tom was afraid of the ball. You throw the ball and Tom would go like this. Not helpful in basketball, as you can understand. So, apologies. I promise not to move too much. So Tom, the first time he caught the ball, his job was to hold on to it. I said, just catch it and keep it. That's what we trained for. because that was his level of where he needed to get to next. That was his first next step. So the first time he did that in an actual game, I was jumping up and down like, yes, you did it! Because the first person he looked to was me to see what was I going to say. And we had practiced this. And then we also had practiced who to give it to. So the other chap in the team, Mike, came, collected the ball, and we played on. Now I had Kevin. Kevin desperately wanted to score his first goal. So we trained on practicing. He used to be too quick and too rough or fall over in the process. So we had to slow him down a bit. Again, first thing he did when he scored was look at me, the coach. Again, I went, wow, fantastic. Now, as teachers, when did you do that last? When a person showed evidence that they had learned a skill you taught them. That's also gamification. It's about motivation to the very core of us, okay? We all actually are predestined from when we're really little by our parents pretty much to learn that way. Because guess what? When we first start to go from crawling to walking, there's somebody on the other side of the room saying, come on, come on, come on over. And they're expectantly smiling at you, thinking, you're gonna make it. And you fall over and they say, don't worry, get back up again. Try again. And then when you do make it to the other side in one piece, they go, wow, fantastic. And guess what? That's our very first learning experience for most of us. And then we go to school. And they don't do that all the time. I know it's tiring to do that, but it's where gamification does come in and where it can bring something to the party. I see some of you very excited and some of you, oh no, this could be scary. But let's make it easy. So, why is it a good thing? I also know some of you like statistics. In fact, the first studies are starting to come out. In the University of Colorado, they did a study and they said, for adult learners, the results of using gamified learning systems increase skills-based knowledge assessment, increase factual knowledge, and increase the retention rate. Now, for kids, this tends to be higher because they do assimilate quicker. There are no official studies I can quote yet. We're working on it. But they are coming out more and more. So there is something to it. Now, I believe a 10% increase over time in everything we do is actually great. Imagine if your results were 10% better than they were last year. Who would be happy with that? Yeah, I see quite a few of you. So for me, that's a good number. When I work with corporates, they say, only 10%? And I say, well, how is your numbers in terms of turnover? Have they doubled or are they just increasing by 10%? Or was it even worse? And then they get it. But as teachers, I'm sure you got it. So the other statistics to do with gamification is, and this is research from Talent LMS. LMS is a learning management system. They do this survey every year. And this is all based on systems gamification alone. They say people like their points and their badges, but only if they know why they earned them. So don't just give them a badge and say, great job, but tell them why. Community recognition is more desired. The example Richard gave about his son playing FIFA with the Russian guy. I mean, most kids lose interest in a game over time. That's normal. But add in social contact and a connection, they play it for way longer because they found a friend. School is fun for a lot of kids because they have friends here in the same game. So don't ever underestimate the community connection. And things like progressing to different levels, real-time performance feedback is things that kids are seeking out more and more, but adults also. Oop, went a bit quicker. This one has gone fuzzy. But basically, the things that Talent LMS found to be most popular, progressing to different levels, point scores, real-time feedback, progress bars, and activity feeds. I have to say, one of my personal hates in gamification is leaderboards, and I think in learning they have no place other than the content. So you rate and rank the content. After that, learning is an individual game where you improve on you. That's my personal opinion. Not everybody in the business agrees with me. What people hate, or don't like, maybe hate's a big word, is competition with friends, virtual gifts, being part of a story or a narrative, avatars, and virtual currencies. Now, this can be different depending on the culture that you're dealing with. Some people love stories. And if you're in a story-based culture and it suits your subject and it suits what you do, by all means use it. Because people believe stories before they believe facts. In fact, the retention of stories is about 50 to 60% higher than facts. The only thing I have to say is Brexit to that. If you followed the Brexit campaign, you know that stories worked and facts didn't. If you look at the American elections, you know that stories work and facts not necessarily so. So it's an important takeaway. Now, they did it again this year, same results, so progression. Now, in the school system, I think education as a system was probably the very first gamified system ever, because you had a path to mastery. You start in preschool, you go to primary, secondary, third level, and if you're lucky, you do a master's. Now, somewhere along the track, we lost that personal connection with the importance of it for me, the individual. In gamification, which is also, in other words, called human-centric design, where the human is at the middle, you would put the learner, the student, and ask the student, okay, what is it you want out of this system? Where do you want to go with this? We lost that connection. Some kids love study. For some, it's not their ideal route. And that's okay. We need people of all kinds. Otherwise, our economies don't work. It's as simple as that. So, now, let's look at Pokemon Go. Now, some of you said you knew it, but what's fascinating, and fascinating in the games industry, is that people, on average, spend 33 minutes using Pokemon Go when it was first released. And the next biggest thing was Facebook, with 22 minutes. That's quite shocking. As all the social media networks beyond that, less than what Pokemon Go did. Now, Pokemon Go really gamified walking. If you wanted to take your child for a walk prior to Pokemon Go, it was probably something like, you got to around the block and the kid says, I'm bored. Whereas now, I have several stories of parents saying, actually, I reconnected with my son or my daughter because she wanted to go Pokemon walking and I went with her or with him. And it's great fun. We do it on a Saturday or a Sunday, and we've walked more in the last couple of weeks than we've ever walked together before. So these things are fun. Now, if you look at them by age, it's actually a girl sport, would you believe? Age and gender. The younger ones did play it. Now, what Pokemon Go did superbly well, and one of the reasons why it works at a deeper level, the students that are now between 18 and 30 as such, they used Pokemon when they were little, playing with trading cards or playing on their Nintendo machines. So they reconnect with a memory, a childhood memory of play that was typically a happy place. Now, in neuroscience, you make the connection once, it's strong. You make the connection twice, it's double strong. You keep reconnecting, it's something you don't break so easily. So that's interesting. Expect others to do the same. Mario Run is in the making for the kids that played Mario on different things. That's coming. So it's interesting. It's the first time a game actually achieved in-game purchases to the extent that it did. The last previous inline or in-game monetization was Clash of Clans. Who knows that one? One or two? And it's not even 30% of what Pokemon Go grossed in the last couple of months. It's not out that long. So, which is fascinating. But it made augmented reality a reality. I write on it for a think tank about immersive learning techniques, gamification, augmented reality, and virtual reality. For the last 2 years, I have been going on about augmented reality is going to be big. Thankfully, Pokemon Go came and finally confirmed it's going to be big. What's happening? A lot of pictures coming up on Instagram, Pinterest, etc., of where you caught these amazing Pokemons. Now, imagine you're teaching a child about a certain place. You place a Pokemon there. Take the picture. Now go find it on the map. Go learn about the culture. You have a different quest. And with a bit of Photoshop, happily and easily done. Okay? Or you ask some of your friends in international places and say, can you send me a Pokemon with the Eiffel Tower? I want to teach my kids about Paris. One way of doing it. Now, what's going to be possible is that I, in Belgium, Stockholm, London, I travel a lot, come up with my phone to somewhere and can say in real time, while you're on the phone to me, hey, look where I am. Now it's already possible with FaceTime and all of those things. But imagine I capture that and allow you to experience through my eyes what I can see somewhere else. Partner with a school in another country. Get the kids to walk around with devices that record. Exchange the interesting places. And guess what? Learning happens. Exchanges happen. And they may even learn Russian in the process. Now, what they did and why it works, gamified walking. So for the gentleman that was honest enough to say he had never seen Pokemon Go before, in each app you have eggs. You need to walk in order to make the eggs hatch. Now, they all have different durations and lengths, so you have to make them hatch. Once the egg hatches, there's this element of surprise. I'm not sure if I have it here now. I think I have it later. But you get this message on your screen saying, oh, and a little sound going, oh, 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 oh. The egg starts to break, and hey, presto, there's a new Pokemon. Now, I do this with my partner. We are nerdy. We both work in a nerdy field, so we're quite happy in that place. But we still do it. For kids, I can see kids in Stockholm around Gamla stan grouping together, oh, oh, and they all get together around this one little device to see what the person has grown. The excitement. Now imagine the egg was a nugget of knowledge, something you wanted them to learn. You sent them on a mission, a walk, to go gather the knowledge. It takes them maybe a few places. And guess what? At the end, they got it. They have the learning. They gather their friends. Oh, I found it, I found the answer. Imagine that in your classroom. You can be the game master by setting the challenge and making them hunt for the bits that are important, presented back. It's usually a team sport. So you see kids running in groups to find the Pokemons. If there's a lure going, which is a thing that attracts more Pokemons to you, you can see them all rushing to that one place to go find those Pokemons. So it works. Now, imagine each Pokemon has a little profile. This is a Charmander. If I read up on my Pokédex, it gives me the qualities, the interesting bits to know. Now imagine you had those cards of knowledge, your lessons, maybe the 5 things you wanted them to know about the Charmander, if we call that your lesson. Imagine that. You can do that. You don't even need to design an app for that. You can do that. Now, what also works, and why Pokemon Go is so attractive, it works on the motivational driver called curiosity. It's always letting you know there's more to learn. There's more to catch. So if you set knowledge up in the same way, where you say, actually, there's 152 right now, they are upgrading, there could be more. And some are only available on some continents, so you need international friends to get all of them. Now what they do is on the app you'll have some that are close by and show. If you've caught it before, it shows in color. If you've never caught it before, it's a grayed out sort of feature. Imagine you hold nuggets of information dangling in front of people and say, well, you know, Paris has a big tower. There may be the outline of the tower. Now go find why it got put there. How would you get there? What's there to know? And little by little, they uncover the rest of the Eiffel Tower and the fact that it was linked to a world exhibition. How high it was, what's it made of, how important it is as an icon for France. So, you know, those things are fun things to play with, but you can play with the curiosity driver just as much. This is another way of driving curiosity. So you have all of your Pokédex. If I collect them all, they're all filled in. Here, I only see what I've got at the moment. So you're always moving forward. You're always progressing. And the student knows. He knows how many more he has. He knows how much they're worth. Now, in school, we rarely know how we're progressing. Until the end of the year, we may not have that much feedback. And yet we live in a world of real-time feedback. If you look at social media, you put up a post and somebody presses like. What does that do to you? Do you feel better? And what happens if you put up a post and nobody presses like? How do you feel then? And your best friend puts something up and they have 20 likes. So we live in a world of instant feedback. Children are being fed that all of the time. So to not do that is going against what they're used to right now. Now, what will be the random surprises? Here's the OO feature where the new thing comes popping out. So what are the random surprises? I used to train a lot in the corporate sector, and I, on occasion, took people on random tours. If it was a beautiful sunny day, we'd take the room outside. Why stick in a stuffy training room inside a corporate room? Blah. When everybody was looking out the window going, oh, I'd love to be outside. And my thing was always, if you've got your own responsibility, you take your own responsibility about sun cream and staying in the shade if you need to, then we can go outside. And if everybody was willing to go with that, we went out. So what are the random things you can do to jazz things up. Now, what are the boosters and levels and medals they can earn along the way? Because main part of Pokemon Go and any game is that you get feedback, that you earn ways of improving, that you can level up, and that you occasionally receive medals for really random stuff. So I caught 200 gas-related Pokemon. Great. Means nothing, but it's funny. So as kids, we like funny things. We collect stuff. Who collected stuff as a kid? Stamps, maybe? Yeah, a few of you. Who still collects stuff? One or two of you. Some of us were told you need to move out if you keep collecting. That happened to me once. Now, this one went a bit fuzzy in the process. Pokemon Go has several point systems. In school, we typically have only one. Now, they have point systems for your avatar to level up. They have coins that you earn where you can go shopping and buy boosters with. Imagine that, a booster in school. You can skip a class, or you can move quicker. That would have interested me. Leveling up. Each particular Pokemon has a number of points attached. So some of them are stronger and some of them are weaker. And isn't that a reflection of how we are basically made up as human beings? Some of us are good at math, some of us are good at science, some of us are good at languages. And that's perfectly okay. No Pokemon is better or worse. They're just different. So if we looked at each Pokemon as a lesson or a learning path, and you are the orchestrator of the lesson plan, is you get them on that quest to gather as much learning about that particular Pokemon as possible. Provide some boosters along the way and some indicators as to, actually, if you do this, you'll earn that. Because the kids are smart. They know that if they throw enough balls at enough Pokemon, they'll level up. And you don't catch every one of them all of the time. And that's okay. You don't have to succeed all of the time. Sometimes our best learnings come from missing big time. I know for sure I learned more in failing in business than I've learned from succeeding in business. Now, I learned the hard way. I don't recommend that to everyone. It takes resilience. But it is a skill that kids will need to succeed in the future. And they put in an achiever level. You can only join a team once you're a certain level in the game. Now, it's like, do you have the program Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Yeah? Phone a friend. 50-50. Ask the crowd. There are ways of making things interesting that can work in the classroom just as well. I remember to this day, I had a French teacher. In Belgium, I come from the Flemish part. Ooh, is this place, is it? I come from the Flemish part. And in Flanders, we learn French from when we're 8. We learn Flemish all through school, obviously. And English from when we're 12, 10 or 12. And then a fourth language if we choose to at 14. Now, I had a French teacher, and he made a bet with me. He had me on the spot in front of the room, and he was doing a test on, he asked me, why is there an S at the end of that word? And I was like, I'm good at languages, I should know this. This is pressure. And he said, I'll bet you a lollipop. Now, the lollipop and my brain went, I'll have that. And I made the right answer, or I gave the right answer. Now, 5 people in front of me had failed at the same test. The teacher forgot the lollipop, so I got 5, because he forgot it 5 days in a row. That was double win, bonus. But basically, if there was such a thing as phone a friend, or ask the majority of the classroom, I bet you the majority of my classmates would have passed. I just happened to be really good at languages. and grammar and everything that went with it. So allow people to learn differently, because we are all different. And some of us learn better in teams. I like learning in private. That's my style. I'll mess up in private and then I come out winning again. And some people are like that. So what can you learn from things like Pokemon Go? Is, first of all, curiosity and social things are very, very powerful. As a teacher, play on it. It works. The games industry can tell you that, hand on heart, every single day of the single week. Augmented reality, virtual reality, it's coming to us at a rapid pace. In fact, in China, in the last 2 months, the Chinese educational system has brought over some virtual development labs because they feel that that's where education is going to go. Watch out for the Asian markets. I travel a lot. I spend on average 2 or 3 months a year in Asia. Their appetite for gaming is ginormous. But the rate at which they take it up in all different lines of work is also at that pace. Look at what they're doing. They're doing amazingly cool stuff. And jump in on it. Different point systems work together. And this, I think, is critical for the education sector worldwide. Point systems for even small things, where I can earn virtual coins, where I know I have nearly 100% of my Pokemons collected, or I'm so much of a percentage to earning a new skill. That's important to me. That's feedback. Surprise and randomness. Tell me, who doesn't like Christmas presents? Doesn't like? And doesn't like. Who likes Christmas presents? Yes, perfect. I knew you were mistaken. So, boosters help people to level up. It's what we sometimes need. We need a little bit of energy. And I think we need a little bit of energy in the room right now. So I'm going to ask you all to stand up a little bit. Yes. I did this last week in Italy, and there was one gentleman in the back who didn't want to go with us. So we pointed at him. So thankfully, you all stood up first time. It's good. So let's start by waving at your feet, because they're far down. We don't want to embarrass anyone if we don't quite reach them. Wave at the feet, and start waving to the middle, to the people beside you, in front of you. And let's go and do it all the way to the ceiling and stretch out as much as possible. Now, I love a happy crowd. Now, let's move it this way and a little bit that way and shake it all out. Yeah, feels better, right? Yeah. Now, let's see, can I add some more challenges into your head? Because what did I just do? I changed your state of mind. From relaxing, I had good fika. My fika is digesting. To, actually, I have a happy smile again. I changed the energy in the room. You can do that. As simple as that. Music helps. I didn't have it on the computer here. So grab a seat. I have a few more quests for you. Now, who's heard of a gentleman called Karl Kapp? Nobody? He's one man to look up in terms of education. But he says if educators could think like game designers, this is what they should do. They should begin with an activity. The second step is create curiosity, mystery, and intrigue. Ooh, something exciting is coming. I know the teachers that had passion did that all of the time, right? Then you create a challenge for the learner that the learner resolves, not the teacher resolves. You allow them to make the mistakes. You put the learners at mock risk. Obviously, you don't want them to jump off a cliff to find out that that's actually painful. But you might send them looking for the physical principle of dropping and what happens when somebody drops down. And why is that a physical theory thing? I was bad at physics, by the way, so if I got all the terms wrong, it's because they didn't stick. Now, I'll give you an example what did stick. So you put learners at mock risk, and then you give them choices. Because what they'll realize after school is that there's actually more than one way to solve most things. How I get there might be the long way. How they get there might be, straight away. And that's okay. Just different learning styles. So allow for that. In an education system, we're often forced down the one route. Limited choices. Leave them choices. Some choices are good. Some choices are not. But let them find out. Let them experience it. Obviously within reason. Mock risk. You don't obviously want them to do the wrong things all of the time. Okay? Now, I had a teacher, I said I was bad at physics. I told the story last night. The only thing I remember in physics is when in Zeebrugge, this ship fell over. Who remembers that? There was a ship coming out of the port of Zeebrugge and it went to ground. There's a few of you. And it was because of this principle of Faraday. Now, don't ask me about the actual great theory that was really behind it, but I knew that because you tip to a certain point, all of a sudden the balance is lost and poof, it falls over. Now, because of my physics teacher using that story as an example, I got it. To this day, I can say, I know something about physics. All right? And I learned that the hard way. Now, gamification that works provides a journey to mastery, a path to getting better. First-person experience-focused, allows for feedback, ideally instant in the moment, there and then. Shows how I can win at each point. And it reinforces the positive stuff that I have already done. It shows me how I can keep up the great achievements, and it has an optional social elements for those kids that like to learn socially. So I have a mission for you, should you choose to accept it. Maybe we should do drum rolls, missions. I'm the only one? A mission. Yeah, you got it. Cool. Mission. Check out 3 gamified learning applications. I suggest Duolingo, Class Dojo, and Classcraft. Check them out. Reject them if you like, but check them out. Duolingo, I'll go through them super quick. Duolingo is a language learning application. It gives you daily streaks for logging in every day because language learning, if you practice often, you get better. It also tells me the level I'm doing, so it sets a goal. It makes you earn Linglots. It tells you when you're on track. And I love this. You're on track, sport. Those kinds of messages I absolutely adore. Now, it also tells me when I'm wrong. I forgot the word moose. So, Algendricker, I wrote something's drink. Didn't know what Algen was. So it tells me I'm wrong. It also tells me, that I'm right. Okay. And when I'm right, I level up. Everything's stuck. Okay. I did do something wrong to unlock it. So let's see if I can work it this way. So, you learned about animals. So it tells me how much I learned. It tells me I earned Linglots. So 3 times it reinforces I did something good. I learned something well. Not just once, 3 times straight in a row. Now, Class Dojo has the same functionality. Now, I did put 2 screens together. Class Dojo is free to use for teachers and also designed by teachers. It gives you rewards about helping others, home plays completed, on track, participating. But it also tells them off when they were bullying or they didn't do their homework. And it links the teachers, the parents, and everyone together. Classcraft I love because the cool graphics. I'm a graphical kid. So it puts people or students into tribes. It was designed by a teacher teaching teenagers. The game runs over a whole class year, and different tribes compete against each other. The actual competition part is about gathering knowledge, doing quests, completing missions, all to do with learning. They earn points, and different points for different things. And I even managed to disarray this one. This one's back. Magic. I often think I have a ghost in the system. On occasion, all my machines go really weird. So I think he's here. He liked it, it's fun. So here you have different point systems. You need all of them to be at a good level in order to perform as a team. If one person in the team doesn't apply themselves, the whole team goes down. Now, how cool is that for teaching teenagers? They do multiplayer online games in their free time. Hint, hint. Now, this is the last slide I'm going to show you, and I sort of leave you on that. And this is information from the World Economic Forum that says the skills that students need in the future are totally different than what we needed when we were little. And these skills are relating to digital security, digital emotional intelligence, digital communication, digital literacy, digital rights, creating a digital identity, digital use, but also taking time away from digital stuff, and digital safety. Now, most of us are wary about what we put out there. Most kids share everything, everywhere, anywhere. With that, there's a lot of freedom. With that, there's a lot of opportunity. With that, there's also an element of risk. And as a teacher, you can help them identify by learning how to use it well. What else can you do with it? So if you're afraid to dip your toe in, I challenge you. Go check out those 3 tools. Make it your mission to at least try it. Dip in the toe a little bit and see if it works. And if in doubt on how to work it, ask the students to help you, because they'll know very quickly. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Anne. An interesting speech on gamification and Pokemon Go. In the weekends, I get out with my girlfriend and her kids, and we go searching for Pokemons, and they walk around and they say like, oh, I need to do this, and I need to find that, and then I will get the points and everything. And I always think about, what if kids talked about school and learning like this? And is it possible to make lesson plans around this, or is it possible to make platforms for kids and teachers to collaborate and to search for learning in that way? So, thank you.
You're welcome.
Nu då, svenska igen. Vi ska äta lunch här fram till klockan 12. Och sen så ska vi få, under ett tag i alla fall, stänga av översättningsmaskinerna här inne i huvudet och lyssna på lite svenska. Så jag tänker vi går på lunch och så ses vi igen klockan 12 här.